Hello. Today, we are going to be talking about the AI-powered contract management AnyWare software system. And when we first log into the system, the first thing we'll see is a dashboard that is we're looking at right now. Under the dashboard, we have four main tabs. First tab is a contract. Under the contract, we can see our total contract status in visual environment, as we can see right here. We can also see how many of our contract is expiring in numbers. And we can also see the contract performance status as well. The green is, you can see it with their value and their percentage, red and with yellow visuals. We also have a service. Under service, you can see our total service status, as well as how many services are expiring and our total service performance status. We can also see all our risk, such as our supply risk, our contract business risk, and our service business risk. Lastly, we can see the top 5. So the top 5 is, by the way, this is customizable. So we can customize the top 5 or top 4, the top 5 things that you want to see when you first open the system, right? This is going to change by the user preference. But in this demo environment, we put the service, supplier, SLA, and consumption. And you can see down by, for example, consumption, you can see the commodity, location, by user, by department, and so forth, right? You can see it all in 4 options. Again, this dashboard that you see right now is fully customizable. It can be customized through customer or user needs. Now let's move on to the system calendar. Under the system calendar, we can see on the left side, we have the filters. These filters, we can add them, edit them, or remove them, right? It's all by user preference. And in here, we can see the calendar by monthly, weekly, or daily. So by monthly, we can see we have events going on, right? So if you click on a specific event, that will give you the details of such as the name, the risk, and the total amount of the supplier event. So this specific supplier review event. If you want to go more in detail, more in depth, you can always click on more details, and that will take you to the supplier page as you can see right now, which I'm going to be talking in a minute as well. So under here, you can see the specific events, supplier event details. You can see the organization, under what organization, name of the event, which region. You can see the supplier reference with the supplier email, with the supplier start date and end date. And below that, you can see the financials of them, right? It's financial. If there is any review, you can see it, or any compliance as well. You can add any certificates and so on. Now let's go back to system calendars. And as you can see, we have a couple, and they all work in the same way in different color visual environment. All right, now let's talk about contracts. So under here, we can look at all the data around the contracts, right? We can see their name, the contract number, each contract number, each contract value. We can see their status, their supplier, and their customer. If you go on a specific, when you click on that, you can see the contract information at the top, such as the name, organization. You can see the contract type with the contract number, contract start, and end date. Below that, we can see the contract files, the contract policies that we have been uploaded. And we have the assets in here where I can create an asset register within the product within the admin console. Or I can import the assets from a contract, an asset management system. And here as a user, all I need to do is pick the assets that I'm doing right now and add it to the contract by clicking on add. And then it ties these two things together where this assets come from its administration capability to make them available to the users. So we're basically just going to click on add. If I want to go deep down into the particular performance side of the contract, I can look at the clauses that we have within the contracts. So our clause is going to be under the procurement in here. The various clauses, such as I can set up the actions if they trigger. I can look at the procurement clauses, the breakdown clauses, exit clauses. I can detect exit clauses and say basically set a trigger period, for example, right? And that will notify me that a contract's about to, if I want to terminate the client's contract. What is the exit clause on the both parties, for example? So on or forward so as well. So I can create a trigger period. I can select a notification that will go to stakeholders when that happens, and these notification messages are pre-formatted beforehand in the administration console as well. So all I need to do is on the renewal clause that up here, I'm just gonna, click on it. And I can select it. Is it gonna be a 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or 4 months, right? And we can also put our email address as well with the notification address and notification message. So I can do it automatically within the system as well. So we have the option to auto renew. If you click on that, you can do this by automatically, or if you want to do manual renew, you can always click on manual review and you can set your own renewal and renewal terms as well. All right, so under the reviews, we can create view dates basically. Okay, as you can see, the review start date, the review frequency, notification message that we can choose from with their email and escalate after how many hours. Operational is really when we want to actively manage the contract. Okay, so if this contract is sufficiently important enough that I have to track the SLA, the service level agreement, SLA stands for, then what I can do as a user, I can pick up that SLA and I can bolt it onto the contract. And I can describe that SLA here that we see right now. And I can look at that escalation email who wants to be notified if it triggers. So what status I want to trigger on the notification message that will go out once the SLA has been triggered. So a user can select multiple SLAs with multiple stakeholders within the contract landscape as well. And we can just add these in very, very simply into this capability here, such as I'm going to choose the SLA name, and I'm going to be clicking on add to the right side. After adding them, the specific SLAs, we're going to be choosing the escalation name, the escalation email, escalation status, and lastly, the notification message they're going to be receiving. Okay. So let's talk about more on this right side. So if I want not to add another one in here, for example, right? So I'll just add the reg escalation and I'll pick the SLA I'm interested in, for example. And then I'll create a different set of users by doing this, by moving SLA to the right side. Okay. So this is basically how it works. If I want to add a brand new the reg, right? So I can click on add reg and I can add another SLA, as you can see right here. So under the tracking, we can have a user tracker. I can select from the 4 data set here, as you can see right here on the left. I can add onto my contract, and then I can still put in what's the target of my tracker. What's the variance, as you can see right here. I will allow, for example, for this one, 10%. So we have got a number of trackers that we can apply to certain parameters within our contract, and they'll be able to alert if they breach in any way as well. And lastly, under the parameter tabs, we have the notes. We can add custom notes by adding add new note, and you can put the name, the name of the note, the date, description, and any attachments is optional. We can do that by here as well. All right, so then coming down a bit further, I can look at the transactions that's going on with this contract. And it's telling us when an invoice comes in for the specific contract. So we have the ability to, if we are tracking the commodity and the cost to be able to receive the transaction date, the GL code, the invoice number, the PO number, if I wanted to, and then calculate what we think the invoice should be. And then with the actual amount, as you can see on the column, we can compare these two values. And if they're outside of a certain tracker, they'll escalate. An action to for example, an action to the finance department to come and understand why we thought the invoice should be an X amount, and it was actually Y amount. Okay, so we can also schedule these connectors to run anytime, and that's what we are going to do, automatically get the data from them. And when we can import that data manually if you want to as well, or you can actually just fill them in manually if you want to. You have both the options. You can also see the timeline of the contract, as you can see in a chart view. You can also see your SLA logs. Okay, you can see it in the bar view, and below that you can see all the SLA alert summary. I was talking about the escalation alert messages. This was what I was talking about. So you can see the date, the SLA name, the status from green to red, right? And you can see the description why been from green to red. So it's because it received the escalation email, right? It exceeded the specific amount that we put on. And lastly, again, we can see all our cost tracking, for this specific contract. We can, categorize them by location, department, user, or commodity. All right. Next thing, we're going to be talking about the customer. So under the customer, we basically can add our customers with their name, which organization they're from, their reference number, and which region they cover, right? So this is already the existing ones in the system, but we can always click on the top right. We can either add or import. So let's click on add, and that will take you to this page. In here, we're going to be choosing which organization they're going to be under. We're going to be choosing the region. Of course, all those regions we can add and edit in any time. Name, their contact number, their reference number, address, the contact email, and of course, you have the option to put customer financial information here, their reviews, compliance, and the billing as well. Next, we have the supplier. Same with customer. This is where we can see all our supplier details, right? Such as their name, under what organization, right? Their supplier reference, and again, which region they cover. If you want to add a brand new supplier to the system, you can either add or import to the system. Okay. Next, we have the departments. So if we use the departments if you want to categorize for example, we are working with a business, and that business are working with different departments, and that different departments that we can put under here on the system for each. So each department is going to have different contracts, right? So we can categorize them under here by their name. Some of them are accounts, as you can see. We have a finance department, HR department, and so forth, right? So, for example, we go by finance, and you can see the customer name, their contact, the region, and organization. When you click on that, you'll go more in detail. And you can see there again with the contact name, department name, email, and which region they cover. If you want to add a brand new department, you can do them by top right by adding or importing. All right, so let's talk about Service Manager. So, as you can see, these are the services that we can run in our business. So I can come in and I can look at the specific services. Let's look at this one, for example. Let's go with this second one. So under the details, you can see the service number, right? So let's go back to cost tracking. Here we go. Here we go. So under here, you can see the service number, right? The start date. An end date. You know the name of the service, what type of service it is. You can give it different types of services. If you wanted to do that, you can create them in the user admin interface by clicking on the top right, and you can just click on add, and you can put all your details. Okay. And after adding them, this page is going to come, and you can put all your informations. And you can also see who owns the service as well. And here I can set the review. As you can see here, the review date for the service. And I can describe when and how often, who is going to review them, what message I am going to send when that review date comes up, and on the system as well. And an escalation email if that review is not taking place, and how long I will escalate after that specific task has been put in place. So I can see really, and if you got the suppliers, for example, you can actually extend this invite to the suppliers so they can come along and talk about how the service is running as well. Next, you have the service details itself. What is the service value of the service, right? What is the annual spend in term? How long it's got left to run. That's all the time of the contract. In here, I can generate automatic reports to go to stakeholders from this service as well. And here we are seeing the actual contract that from this service here. So as you can see, we have this four contracts actually form this particular service that we've got. So we are looking at those 4 supply contracts in the guise of this service. Okay. Next, we have the cost tracking. So if it's consumption based, this is what we'll see. The consumption of a particular service or commodity, we'll see those results in here. Okay. And I can see how the value of the target's performance against it as well. Its target value and whether that's been overused or underused as well. By clicking on commodity, you can see it under here. We can also see, we can put notes as well by clicking on add new note. We can see the timelines. Lastly, we can see the service flow. So service flow, this one here is just looking at the flow of the service. These 2 contracts that we see on the left side. They work in a sequential routine. The first thing that happens is the the name of the first contract. The next thing we have is the application. And now we have the communications platform that sits on the top of that. So as you can see, it's dividing on the categories. We can swap those out by clicking on this two icon if you wanted to. And this just helps us understand if the application fails, what impact that it has on the rest of the flow. But it's said that if you want to use it as a set, it's a quite useful tool to understand the impact of the failure of the service. You can see it right here. So we also something called Workbench. Under the Workbench, you can create contract templates, right? You can build your contract basically. So that's where we do under the Workbench. After you create the template, and when you create your own specific contract, whatever you build under the Workbench, it will automatically transfer to the contract section under here. Okay. So I already logged in the Workbench. So Workbench as an add-on to the system. Okay. So once it will take you to another tab, but I just logged in to save time. So I'm just gonna jump in that system. Let's log in. All right. So here, as you can see, this is our Workbench. On the left side, we have a couple sub-modules, and this is the main dashboard of the Workbench. It works as the same way, similar way to our the main instance. But here, basically, what separates from the main one is we can build contract templates. Okay, so as you can see, we already have existing contract templates. But let's go to SaaS order form, for example. So we already built this. You can see all the details. This is all the template sections of the contract. At the top, you can see the organization, under what organization is under. You can see the contract name and the template document name, which is the SaaS order upload. Okay. And below that, we can see all the sections of the contract, such as section 1, with the name and description and with the components. Component 2, 3, 4. And this is section 2 with component 1, 2, 3. So it goes in that order. Okay, you can see everything under here. Once this contract is done, we'll go down, as you can see, save, and that will save to our main dashboard contract. Okay, so this will save it to your contract under the contract template, as you can see right here. So once you save it here, you're going to be going to the top, which is called Contract Builder. So under the Contract Builder, what you're going to do is you're going to be building the contract, right? Again, you're going to be choosing which organization that you want to build on first. Then you're going to be choosing that template that you just made. So it was a SaaS order form. You're going to click on that. And as you can see the contract that you just built. Okay. So double check everything, all your details. And if everything looks good, we're going to be clicking on save. And after clicking on save, that's going to be under the contracts under here. Okay. So after you save under the contract builder, it will be under the contract. It will be under here, as well as on our main instance under this contract. Okay. So once you save it from the Workbench, it will show up under the contract section here. So under here, you're going to click on that specific contract that you just created, and then you're going to be putting all the information, right? You're going to be choosing the name, organization, contract type. You're going to be putting all the contract files if there is any, plus the files, all your assets, then all the preliminary tabs such as the contract, procurement information, reviews, and so forth. So this is where you're going to put all the information of the contract, all the details. Okay. Yep. Now let's move to the Discover. So under the Discover, let's think about the Discover like a quick search, right? You can search a contract by agreement duration, right? Or a month. You can simply click on a one, and it will make a filter out for you all the contracts that in order this amount, right? You can see the contract duration, all the dates you've been put, all the duration, end date, group. You can categorize them by, using a quick search. Now let's move to the contract change request. So under the contract change request, you can basically make contract changes. So if you, in order to make a brand new contract change request, you can simply click on right and click on add, right? After that, you're going to be choosing which contract that you want to make changes on, right? I'm going to go with this demo one, for example. Then I'm going to put in the subject of what I want to change, right? Request for the reason why you want to change it. What's the reason? And which contract, which field that you want to be changing on, request value, and a timeline for the approval of the change, right? And if you want any supporting documents, you can upload them as well through here. And once you click on save, that will update your contract change request dashboard under here that you see right now. Okay, and it's that simple. So, and once you choose once the contract change request is approved, you can see them under the status section under here. Okay, so before we move on to the tracking, I want to also talk about our chatbot, right? So we have a chatbot on the bottom right of the screen called Ask Marvelous. Under here, we can also think about this is your HubBot, okay? So it can do anything pretty much you ask for. You can upload contracts automatically. You can ask for a specific contract. If you want to know the description of the specific contract or the details of the specific contract, you can ask Marvelous chatbot. So let's make an example. So I have a contract called IBM. So I want to learn more about the IBM. So I'm just going to tell the bot, I'm just going to type the name in, right? So IBM. Okay. Tell me the details of the IBM. Here we go. So I told the bot to tell me the details of the IBM, and I can see the bot told me IBM, document management, internal blue prism, right? So now the bot knows what I'm talking about, which contract I'm talking about. So I can ask, for example, what is the end date? What is the start date of the contract? Let me be specific a little bit. What's the start date of the contract? See? So it started this year, date, and month. I can always do the end date as well. And what is the total value? Let's do one more. So the specific, so you can ask, the specific details of the contract, or you can upload a contract. So I want to upload a contract. So you're going to ask me, is it a new contract or a supporting document for an existing contract? So I can simply click. So it's going to be a new contract. Then it's going to take me through all the steps. So first, you're going to ask me provide a contract on emails and so forth. So it's going to give you a step by step. And at the end, it's going to ask you to import that specific contract to the system. And you're going to be a button called upload. You're going to click on that and it will transfer automatically to under the contract section. All right. So now let's clear this out. Close this. Now let's talk about performance tracker under the tracking. So this is a different section, right? So we just finished the operation section. Now we're in the second section called tracking. So the first thing is the performance tracker. So the performance tracker is where we design those performance trackers as an admin person to be able to make those available to our users if they need to use them. So for example, I will ring you up and say, I will send you a note saying, guys, I need a performance tracker for this specific contract. Let's go this one. Okay. And it's getting out of hand. So can you design it? And you want to make it available, and then you come here and you build a performance tracker and make it available for us to use. And you will schedule how often this performance tracker will run as well. Click on the schedule, and you can track the performance tracker by every 5 minutes at that time. If it's going to be daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly. So you have those options to create your own performance trackers. Now we also have the cost tracker. So the cost tracker is where we are going to assign the cost a commodity. So you can see here that we've been able to pull down these commodities here because we have a list to choose the form. So let's go this one, as you can see here. Okay. And then what I can do then is I can give you these commodities a minimum cost or a cost per unit. I can describe whether they are being used across a location or a department. Okay, as you can see right here. And I can create a user which I'm going to build. So let's say you've got a contact for HR services and it's used throughout the group. But what I can do here is that I can create a committed HR service. I can give it a standing charge and a consumption-based charge. And I can build to each of the department if I wanted to as well. So this allows me to do chargeback internally. But we use this basically to create sales products. Okay, and here we are describing where which data connect to where. We are using the graph, the metrics of the consumption to be able to create the bill. As you can see here. Okay, we can also do variable pricing under here by clicking on this. This is the variable pricing. So we can actually program the thing at the different times of the day. Okay, different times of the week to put discounts in or create different price model. So we can say on for example, Wednesday, 2 p.m., as you can see on the start date, or a different date, doesn't matter, or different price, right? So we can build in different price models. Not many people use, that capability, but it's mostly used around utilities like, gas, water, that type of thing. And if you want to build different rates for different consumption times as well, if you want to do that, we have that option too. Next, we have the commodity. So under here, we can create basically commodities. So we say that contracts tend to be for services, or they tend to be for product goods, right? So this is just a list of goods that we can create the business that we use. So it's really simple to do create a commodity. We give it an asset. So let's go the existing one, for example. Here we go. Let's here. Okay, here we go. Again, so we're gonna give them the asset with the name, the which region, and description. Okay. Then again, giving the asset ID, give it a name. You can describe which region this commodity appears in. Okay. So let's just say this commodity never appears in, for example, England. Okay, but appears in global. Okay, and the specific region global is an exhibition of that specific commodity, and we save it, and that's it. It's that simple, basically, right? After putting all those information. Now, when we have this list of commodities, what it means is if I want to start to use the billing, I can see that commodity in my software. What I need to create a commodity-based price. So this is where we can do that. Okay. You can also track the locations as well. So location of what you might call all your the contracts, right? You can put them in the regions up here with their name, description, and the regions. If you want to add a brand new one, you can always import them under here. You can also add users to bill. Basically, again, once you create a new user, you're gonna be, after creating that, you can put the new name under here, put a description, and you're gonna be choosing the region, and that's it, right? You can buy and that edit it, and that's it. Right? You can add unlimited user to bill. There is no limit to that. All right, now we're gonna be talking about the connector KPI and SLAs. Okay, so these are probably the most complicated sub-modules in the system. So let's talk about connectors. So let's just say sometimes customer wants to add more information into the contract, right? They want to be able to do some more customization in there. So we are able to create some capabilities like the SLA bolts on like the asset management bolt on allow them to very easily extend the use of their contracts under here. Okay. So this comes from connectors, KPIs, and SLAs. Okay. So if you are going to do an SLA, you really need to have a KPI to assign to that SLA. And with that SLA, you need to get that data from somewhere. So you cannot have a user trying to connect to the database to get information to track an SLA automatically. So the admin team will come along and they will create connectors that we are in right now. That will go off and check data to be able to use that data to deliver the particular SLA that's been created. Let's go into one. Okay. Let's go with the second one. So actually, let's make one. Let's click on that. Okay. Once you click on that, so there are 3 types, right? 3 type of connectors that we got here. There's a data connector at first. That is where we want to go and retrieve the data from a database. It can be Oracle, SQL, any database at all. Okay. We can also use an email as you can see right here, email connector as well. So these are pre-created, pre-tested connectors. So these are API in some respect to be able to connect to the third world. Okay. So this is the design of a connector basically. And we are going to give it a name platform where where it's located, which server, which port we are going to access, a description of the connector, whether it's a MySQL or Oracle database or MongoDB database. The other one, this port, for example, right? What is the username and the password that we are going to give that connection to allow to talk to third-party data source? And then we can test that here, so we can test it out that connector after saving it. And as you can see, this from the text connectivity. So this is how we, save and make connectors by data or email. Now let's talk about KPIs. Again, the other thing here is with the KPIs. So the KPIs, the metrics that will go to sit in an overreaching service level agreement. So again, we need to be able to create that ability to be able to create those KPIs within the system as well. So this is where our IT team would basically create a KPI extraction. So you can see here what we are going to do, where we're going to go and get that from a data connector that we just built. Okay, let's go to this one. All right, so it says here before you can do this KPI. Let's actually, hold on. There we go. As you can see, if you want to create what you might call a brand new KPI, you're going to be putting the name, the metric field, filter value, the data connector, right? So as you can see, creating a connector was the first step. After creating, you're going to be selecting this, right? And you're going to put in the KPI tab. It's going to be a network load, volume, and your core and so forth. Right? You can see those under here. All right. So again, after giving the name, this could be anything, right? It can be AWS performance, for example. So I'm going to use the data connect that I just created in the connector, right? So for example, this is gonna go with this one, the call tracker connector. And I'm going to basically look for the metric on deliveries. And it's going to be a record count or network load or a volume count. So here, what I'm going to construct the ability to find data and to turn it into a key performance indicator. And I'm going to talk to the data source to be able to give that KPI. And after everything is done, we can save this and that will, be on your KPI dashboard. All right, so the last thing under the tracking is the SLAs. Now that's important because when you come to create an SLA here in the system, so this is where we will use the admin console to design an SLA. So maybe a user I will ring and you say, I've got this contract to go SLA, for example, right? I need to track it. I can't afford humans to do it. So I know there's a data source. Can you design me SLA? And you will go, yeah, no problem. Let me look at the contract. And then you will come here and you will create that SLA, make it live. And then when I'm managing my contract, I could see that specific SLA. And all I need to do is select that SLA, bolt into the contract, and describe what's going to happen when it's triggered. Okay? So that's the user process, basically. So again, let's go with this SLA. Here, as you can see, the connector, which connector, is it email connector or data connector, and which SLA type? There is a couple of them. And you can choose the description, name, and you're going to be choosing the email listener, email senders, and so forth, right? Anyway, so what you might call, so within the connector that we are in right now, it's within the SLA here. And the new SLA, there are two types of SLA. Like if you want to create a brand new SLA, but you click on add here. So as you can see, data and email. A data connector and an email connector, okay? So let's say, for instance, I've got a contract. And it's have to do with cleaning the windows on a Friday in the office. Okay, this is just an example. And our boss, our manager, is so obsessed of how our windows is going to be clean. Okay. Now there is not a database I can go find out that specific contract, isn't it? So the fact that they need to clean the window Friday at that specific hour, or so what? Okay, anyway, so what I can do here is I can create an email connector. Okay, so what's going to be happen when I do that? It's going to basically look at which program, what you might call the parameters of what I want to track and when it goes unchecked. When say the schedule. So again, you can put a schedule here with the start date and end date. Okay. All I need to do is reply to that email. After this happens, right, and after replying the email, it will send me an amber warning, and if I don't reply to that, then it creates a red warning to escalate the fact that this task is not being carried out. So we can always do data and email. So we have two options here. Okay, depends on the user difference. All right, now let's talk about the configuration section on the left side. As you can see under the configuration, we have reports. We can make user management. We can make organizations. We can adjust our notifications. And lastly, we can also view and add our governance as well. So the first thing we're going to be going to reports under here. We already have predefined reports for each organization, as you can see right here. We can select the reports and their entity. We also have the save reports as well. Also, if you want to make a report from the scratch, we can have the report builder, right? Under here, we're going to be choosing which organization is going to go to when we're building this report. Then we're going to be choosing the field name, service, department, supplier. It goes that order, okay? So for the first time, the field name, I want this contract to be with contract name, contract number, contract value. So basically what I'm doing right now is I'm adding all the fields inside to my custom report, okay? With the same thing with the service, department, supplier, customer, my KPIs, and so forth. Then on the right side, I'm going to be selecting the criteria, like at the selection criteria. Then I'm going to be choosing the contract name, number, and so forth. The stuff I chose right here. As you can see, it corresponds to all the fields. Okay. Then I can sort the criteria after putting the selection criteria. Then I can add the summary field lastly. Okay, then when everything is done, so let's just say this is my basic report. I can run this report, I can save the report, and I can download the report as well. We have option to save, download as PDF or CSV. If I want to reset the whole thing, I can click reset value, and that will reset the values, so you can restart it again. Okay. Next, we have the data visualization. Under the data visualization, we can view the data in a hierarchical view. Okay, so I'm going to be choosing the organization first, then I'm going to be choosing the module. I want supplier, contract, service. Okay, then open view. As you can see, I can see everything in a bird view, right? So this is my demo. This is my organization named demo customer, and under that we have like all the first department is going to be the module is open reach, then serve services, then HR bubble, and so forth. Right? So under here you can basically view your the bird view of your data visualization. Then you can also compare the views as well. So the first one was viewing as in a bird view, right? The second one, you can also compare two modules or SLAs, right? Again, you can choose a service, contract, or supplier. Go with the service, and I'm going to choose my service. Then show SLA total by what? Are we going to show by alerts, cost rectify, or service credits? Then I can click on view, and that will show up under here. Okay, as you can see right here. Below that, I can see the view. As you can see, the name of the services, contract, then it goes three main module. Below that, I can see the name of the service, then the start date of the service, and date of the service, and total value of the service as well. Lastly, I can see the service performance view under here as well, the same method. I'm going to choose my organization. Then it's going to be, I want this by alerts again. Then I can hit the open view and it will show you the view. Okay. Next thing is we have the user management. Under here, we basically can manage users. By their username, we can view it, their organization, their role inside the system. If I want to add from the scratch, I can basically, click on add. Then I'm going to put in their name, their access level, such as admins, end user, or super user, their organization, which organization they're going to be going under, their username, and that's it. Okay. Then we're going to be clicking on save, and that will update my user management dashboard. Same thing goes with organization. We can see their name, organization reference, region, and their default. If I want to add a brand new organization inside the system, I can simply click on top right and click on add. That will take you to this page. Under this page, basically, we're going to put all this information. Then once we click on save, that will update my dashboard for organization. Same with notification too. If I want to edit notification, my existing notifications, or if I want to make a notification from scratch, I can do that by here, right? So if we can see, we have a couple existing notifications, such as their name, under this specific organization, and their sender and notification type. So let's go with this one example. This is our review notification, right? So what we do in this notification is that you can set message body variables. So these are all the body, like the main variables inside this specific notification. Okay. And what we say here is message body. You can custom put your messages or notifications under here. In this case, we'll test. So whenever you activate the notification, it will send this text message body. And if I want to do a brand new one, you can simply click on add. And through here, we can name our message body, name, subject, and notification type, and so forth. Okay. Lastly, on the configuration, we have governance. Under the governance, we basically make all our lists for the governance, right? So in here, we can see all our organization. Again, the start date, approval by this person, name, and so forth, right? After this is done, again, you can click on save, and that will update our governance. If you want a brand new one, again, the same concept. Now let's talk about setup, which is our last section of the system. Under here, we can basically set up our items as item categories. So as you can see, our existing one under here, we can basically categorize our items. We can also adjust our outgoing mail. You want to click a brand new one, I can click on add, and that way we can add my mail server for outgoing mail, hit port, username, password, then click on save, and that will update my server for outgoing mail. Same with service period. I can add all my service period. We can do this by 24/7, for example, or 24/5. It doesn't matter, right? Or work week 9 to 5. So that's after you're creating your service period, you can go in and you can make this as a daily or every weekday, select them by start time and end time and so forth. You can also choose your contract type. So this is where we can add all our contract types. Once you edit your contract type here, it will show that type when you are making the brand new contract under the contracts right here. Okay. Again, the simple way, you're going to be clicking on add. You have two choices. You can either import or add. When you click on add, you're going to be putting all the types for the specific contract type. I can also edit my currency. There's no limit to it. We can add as many currencies as we want by clicking on top right and click on add. I can also design my service as well under the service designer. I can also adjust my approvers for the governance by putting their email, description, and so forth. Lastly, I can see all my audit log for the system. Which user did what did they change at what time, which date, and so forth. Right? It will be shown under here, as you can see right now. All right, so this sums up the whole overview of the system. Thank you for listening.